So let's get started with the interview. First, since it's going out on YouTube, I wanted to begin with a special thanks to Mr. Rob Phelan for helping us set up this interview and giving us the opportunity to speak to Mr. Sheeks. Um, so let me first explain the purpose of this discussion as well as to give our audience a brief um, explanation and overview of what Diverse Dollars is. So Diverse Dollars is a club at Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we engage with students in our community. So we have 1 hour lunch sessions, which is very convenient for us. So we're able to get a lot done within an hour. So we've done workshops such as vision boards during our savings presentations, as well as presenting along with student businesses at our school. So how are they able to balance being student leaders and as well as providing for their customers in the business world. So we are trying to make personal finance and building teen wealth relatable and an accessible thing for everybody. So that's a huge way of us like trying to apply a very important topic that's not a graduation requirement in our county. So we're trying to relate this to real life situations. And one of the best ways we're trying to continue this throughout the summer is by doing interviews with um, well known and respected authors, educators, teachers, and just trying to post these on our Instagram and YouTube to reach out to our club members, even beyond that as well. So that's a great thing with the digital world today. So now let's introduce our guests. So good afternoon, Mr. Sheeks. May you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dan Sheeks. Live out in Denver, Colorado. Teacher, author, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and personal financial literacy advocate.
Great, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheeks. Secondly, Nikola, who's my co-host. May you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Nikola. I'm rising senior like you, leading club with Aser. We teach people about money, have fun doing it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Now that we've introduced everyone, let's dive into your personal journeys and experiences. So, like you mentioned, you have a background in teaching and an author as well. So that's a very diverse background. And usually, like we don't see teachers being investors and going into releasing books. So, like with your wide range of experiences, we're just curious about your personal journey, and we wanted to ask what initially inspired you to focus on financial literacy and building wealth, particularly for Gen Z. And was there like any defining moments or like success stories that you would like to share that sparked this passion?
Yeah, the journey has been pretty eye-opening and unexpected at times. Some twists and turns that I would not have that I did not see coming. So I have been a high school business teacher for over 20 years. So a long time before most of you were all born. But I love my job. I love and always have. I've loved working with young people. I was a coach for a while as well. Um, and working with high school kids, students, that's just my jam. That's what I love to do all day, every day.
Mhm.
But and then I was teaching classes like entrepreneurship, personal finance, marketing, these kind of, and I really enjoy teaching those classes because they have a lot of value, and the students generally see that they can use what they're learning after high school, which we can all agree probably that there are some classes in high school that you're required to take that you're never going to use that stuff. Unfortunately, that's just the way the system's set up. But a class like personal finance or entrepreneurship, yeah, you can use that. It's very valuable information.
Mhm.
So I love teaching those classes. It was probably about 8 years ago when a new world opened up to me, and I and my wife, we discovered what's called the early financial independence community.
Mhm.
It's also called FIRE, FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence Retire Early.
Mhm.
We found that community, and we also found the real estate investing world or community, and specifically a community, online community for real estate investors called Bigger Pockets. we found those two communities at really the same time. And we together, my wife and I, kind of went down that rabbit hole, really started engaging in those two communities, consuming tons of information, books, podcasts, blog posts, going to meetups specific to those two worlds, early financial independence, real estate investing. And kind of went all in and decided that we were going to use those strategies to get us to a better place financially. My wife at the time was a teacher as well. She was an elementary school teacher. So we were both full-time teachers. And over the course of 3 or 4 years, we did start investing in real estate. We started a couple small businesses, had some side hustles. We're living more frugally. And we were using those strategies to reach early financial independence, which really just means putting yourself in a situation where you don't have to work all the way till you're 65. You can reach financial freedom before age 65. So we were seeing massive improvements in our financial standing, and we saw that we were on our way, and now today are at financial independence at an early age. So somewhere in that journey, I started teaching those concepts and strategies to the students in my class. They were very receptive. I had guest speakers coming in talking about those topics. And in doing that, I decided I wanted to build some kind of a checklist, which evolved into a workbook, which evolved into a book and a workbook. So that's where the author part came. I wrote those two books. They were actually published by Bigger Pockets, which is that online real estate investing community I mentioned. So those books have reached tens of thousands of people. And the same in there, I also started an online community called Sheeks Freaks, which is an online community specifically and exclusively for Gen Z who want to start maximizing their financial future now. They're taking action steps today. Like they want to engage with others who are of that same mindset. So it's a pretty freakish, I call them freaks, freakish niche of young people who are actually, and anybody listening to this, including the two of you hosting, are all, in my estimation, you're freakish in a good way, in that you are young and you are motivated enough to maximize your financial future that you would host and or listen to a podcast about this kind of stuff. So my community has been around for 4 years now. We've got members from across the country. Everyone is 15 to 25. They are doing amazing, amazing things. And then more recently, I started speaking a lot. I speak to high school classrooms, college classrooms, student groups all across the country. I travel a little bit to do that. That's super fun for me. And my wife and I are now, we both work part-time. So I'm now a part-time teacher, and we both work remotely, and we have flexible schedules, and we have a 3-year-old son who we spoil. So our lives are in a really good place, and now it's time for me to give back, which is what I've done with the book, the community, and speaking and doing things like this.
Oh, that's great. That sounds really awesome. Mr. Phelan also mentioned about like how he mentioned like he doesn't need to work after 40. He said he wants to be financially free by 40, and he said one of those ways is like rather not working for money but working for passion, and I can really see that in a mission of yours, Mr. Sheik. So I feel like I believe Nikola will be sharing now about like your work in like financial literacy education. He may have some questions on that.
It's designed to introduce teenagers to financial freedom strategies. These resources, they're tailored to help young people understand and implement just financial independence concepts from like an early age. So my question for you would be, with the average student loan debt for college graduates being like $30,000, how does your book First to a Million help students plan and manage for educational expenses? And like what strategies do you recommend to just avoid or mitigate these student debts?
Yeah, student loans are a big indicator for financial success, and they're a major contributor, and it's a big issue too. There's a student loan debt crisis in our country. $30,000 probably is the average, but there's a lot of people who have way more than that. So what I chose to do, and it just kind of aligned this way, since I do mostly prefer to work with high school students, but I work with a lot of college students too. But high school students haven't yet incurred any student loan debt because they're still in high school. So it's kind of like, for me, it's like working with a clean slate. High school students haven't built bad money habits. They haven't engaged in lifestyle inflation. They haven't tanked their credit score because they probably don't even have one yet. They haven't taken on any student loan debt or probably any car loans or any other consumer debt, credit card debt, for instance. So teenagers like yourselves are in a situation where you haven't dug yourselves in a hole yet. Many adults, most adults have. So working with adults that have dug themselves into a hole is actually, I think, harder. And a lot of my friends in my network, they do that. They coach or advise adults to get them out of that hole and then to start building up their net worth. Teenagers is a lot easier because you're all like a net zero. And so if you start to build habits, good money habits now, then it's much easier than digging yourselves out of a hole. So when it comes to student loan debt, in my book, I have 2 chapters specifically talking about college. The first chapter, and I think it's like chapter 26, that chapter is, should you go to college or should you not go to college? Because that's a big question. And I don't tell anybody what to do. I just kind of examine both options, pros and cons. And then the next chapter, which I think is 27, says, if you do decide to go to college, here's how you should do it so that you are aligned with an early financial freedom pathway. And one of the components of that is to not take on student loan debt, to do everything possible to not take on student loan debt. So that can look a lot of different ways. That could be going to a 2-year community college first and then transferring to a 4-year school. That could be going to an online college where you're living at home, so you're not spending money on lodging and transportation and probably a food, the board program where you're paying for all your meals. It could be doing an apprenticeship, some kind of vocational education, technical school, or not going to college. So there's a lot of different ways to do, and at the very least, if you do need to take on some student loan debt, taking on the least amount. So going to an in-state 4-year public school versus a private school or anything out of state that's going to be much more expensive, thus requiring more student loans. Because student loans, it's kind of been taught to everybody in our country that they're okay. Take on as many student loans as you can, get the education that you think you need. That's just not the best way to do it. A college degree is a college degree. So try to do it as efficiently and at least cost possible, which also means minimizing those student loans.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, as a rising senior, this is like what mainly we're thinking about, like recently when it comes to colleges and where just to apply and stuff like that. But yeah, passing it back to Sarah.
Okay, great. I definitely agree with you, Mr. Sheeks, especially we have a local community college and they tend to like offer scholarships at the same time for like students to motivate students to go to the community college. It's pretty nice. It's called Montgomery College. And it's very they also offer dual enrollment credits, so we'd be also saving more money at the 4-year public school. So like you mentioned earlier, you have a community called Chic Freaks, which is there's a definition on your website called a young person obsessed with making intelligent financial decisions to allow themselves to reach early financial independence and live their best life. Personally, I believe me and Nikola are Chic Freaks. And in 2019, so you launched Chic Freaks, which is an online community. And you help young people learn management skills, money management skills, as well as the community aspect is also crucial, I believe, where members can connect with each other, with like-peer members and share their financial journeys and support each other in achieving their goals. And you mentioned you work with high schoolers and college students. So that's really interesting. And this sounds like a very collaborative environment that fosters accountability and motivation amongst young investors and savers. The question I have for you is what was Chic Freaks like started because there was a gap you noticed in the resources available to young people online, or is it because you wanted to take advantage of um Gen Z and its digital age and using your digital approach to attract Gen Z
Mhm.
uh, students and even people who aren't students?
Yeah, so Sheiks Freaks, there's the community, and there's also there's the Sheiks Freaks website, which has a good number of really I think great blog articles on it for young people about early financial independence. Um, the community is the heart and soul though of Sheiks Freaks, and that online community started because I was having a conversation on the phone one day with a young guy named Leo. Um, as I do all the time, actually, just a couple hours ago, I was talking to a young woman in California named Charisma, who I connected with through one of my members. He recommended that I talk to her. And so I talk to young people all the time on the phone and just kind of answer questions, give a little bit of guidance. And so I was talking to Leo, this is again 4 years ago, a little more than 4 years ago. And he said, I don't have any friends that in my home group that are as motivated to learn and take action about their financial future. He said to me, he said, you should start some kind of a little club or a group where, because I mentioned to him that I talk to people a lot. He said, you should start something where we can all get together and meet. So that's kind of how it started. It was an idea from a young person who said they wanted to meet other like-minded young people because they were alone in their world when it came to that mindset. I said, that's a great idea. So I started Sheiks Freaks. It's a Slack group, which is kind of like Discord or Facebook group. So we have a Slack group. We do we do Zoom calls about every other week. And then we have small accountability groups, and we do an in-person meetup once a year. So it's grown. I mean, 4 years is a long time. It's grown. We've added some more features in there, but it's the young people in the community. And again, it goes all the way down to, I think our youngest member is 15 up to 25 or 26. The young people in there are just crushing it. They have that mindset. And then when they are starting to engage and surround themselves with like-minded young people, because this is like a 1% thing. There's only like 1 or 2% of young people are interested and motivated enough to join a group like that. But once they find each other, then it starts to just kind of explode because they find somebody who's maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of them. They kind of latch on, get some information. The members are all extremely welcoming, humble, open to talk, helpful to one another, very collaborative, like you said, and we're kind of a family. And it's just a lot of fun for me to facilitate that group.
That's awesome to hear, especially as like a group that's like also very motivated with helping each other. Um, I actually went through your website and looked at the success stories section, and I saw one about a kid named Chase and like how he created 101 ways to build wealth and generate wealth for himself. He wrote the blog, I believe, and he mentioned like I like two of the tips he provided. Like the top two favorite were surrounding yourself around people who are like-minded like you, which is definitely in the chic freaks community, and as well as having that mindset. So you mentioned 1%, or it's only 1% that actually will commit to this, and especially like achieving a lifelong journey that you can be financially free before even 65 is insane to me. And that's really like motivating as a young person, who's looking forward. Oh, how can I better my living habits, or how can I better myself to be more independent when it comes to like my finances, especially like if I want to travel, or even if I have to commit a lot of time to work, or just making sure that I'm not like living bill to bill. Or so that's really interesting. And he also mentioned like networking is a big part of his job as well. So he mentioned LinkedIn, I believe, towards the end of his blog post. And personally, yeah, I've been using LinkedIn as well. Um, so it's been really great to see that.
Where you've developed strategies, concepts like specifically tailored to our generation and what we have available to us, focusing on like practical steps and what to do. And on your website, sheetsfreaks.com, you provide resources to help teens and adults like get started on learning the foundational concepts of financial literacy through just blog posts, digital outreach, and specifically designed like with the computer technology mindset at hand. So what are some key strategies that a Gen Z kid could implement to start their journey towards just like financial independence and any specific steps or habits that they should focus on initially?
I'll just name two real quick. So number one, I think the most important is to find some kind of community where you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and preferably like-minded people who are roughly the same age. That would be by far the best thing you can do. It's the networking and the mastermind kind of component of it. Number two, as a young person, is to find some way to increase your income. And usually that's going to be some kind of a side hustle. And people always ask, well, what side hustle should I start? There's hundreds of examples. So my advice is always go into Google and type in best side hustles for teenagers, and you're going to find 100 different ideas. Find one that resonates with you. It seems fun. It seems like something you would enjoy doing. And then just start doing some research and figure out how to make that side hustle happen, increase your income, and go from there.
That's great. That's great. Thank you very much. Uh, and then to move on, there are like numerous states that have introduced like financial literacy as a graduation requirement. Like near to us, it's Virginia and a specific county within Maryland called PG County. Looking into Colorado, when I was researching, Colorado doesn't have a graduation requirement for FinLit. Um, and I just wanted to ask, like, especially since you've spoken at numerous like finance educational focused podcasts, like based on your experience, what are the most effective methods for teaching financial literacy to young people, and how can these methods be integrated into current education systems?
Yeah, there's a lot of different great techniques and strategies to teach this stuff to young people, but the best way to do it is in person with real life examples, guest speakers, uh, showing and highlighting simple math, because investing and creating wealth is not complicated. It is not, it's very simple math, and it's actually very easy to understand. It's not always easy to do, but it's easy to understand. But you're right. There's only about half of the states in our country that require a personal finance standalone semester-long class for high school graduation, which is not a good thing. It's growing, which is good.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, Colorado is one of those states that still doesn't have that requirement. I do a lot at the state level, district level, to hopefully promote for that change. And someday it will happen, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. That's one of the ways we're trying to fight, um, and advocate for a course that also makes it better than just like digital teaching. So we had a 2-week course in our government class, which was very short.
Yeah.
Now let's shift our focus to another crucial aspect of financial literacy, which is understanding the common mistakes and misconceptions young people are often encountered with when it comes to financial literacy.
So yeah, through your work, you've identified common financial mistakes that young people make and just misconceptions that they might have about like money management. It often stems from a lack of foundational like knowledge and experience, which can really lead to some financial challenges down the line. But for instance, many people will struggle with budgeting effectively. I know that's like something that can definitely relate to our generation, even though we're still in our teens. For instance, many young people underestimate their expenses and overestimate their income often when they get their first job or like some just like side hustle money. So are there any misconceptions about money management that you frequently encounter? And how can young people correct these misunderstandings and set themselves up for success?
I think the most important one I kind of already mentioned, and that is that most young people and adults that we're convinced that money and investing and building wealth is too complicated for them to understand. There's a lot of really big corporations out there that try to make it seem like it's complicated by using big words and big strategies, but they're just trying to make money for themselves, right? So money and investing in wealth is not complicated. It's actually very simple and easy. And so that's the biggest misconception. And because people tend to think it is so daunting and intimidating, they don't do anything. And that's the biggest mistake. They don't look at their finances. They don't create a budget. They don't try to find a way to earn extra income. They don't learn how a credit card works. They do take on too much student loan debt. They make poor decisions with their spending because they haven't begun to do the research or learn about money, even though it's actually very easy. So it's just about, you listen to a podcast, finding a YouTube channel that you like, joining a community, reading a book, and beginning to learn, or taking a class in high school if it's offered, to learn about personal finance. It's really pretty simple. You just got to do it.
Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Our time is so constrained today. Sorry, Zoom only lets us do an hour, but so we are very grateful for you sharing like what the great skills that high schoolers need to achieve and look at, especially with like misconceptions. I think that's a huge hurdle that high schoolers have to be faced with, and your dedication is definitely inspiring. And are there like any final thoughts or messages you want to leave with our audience as we have 2 minutes and 50 seconds left?
Final thoughts would just be to find that one medium that you do resonate with. Maybe it's a TikTok account or Instagram or YouTube. Maybe it's a website, a blog, a community, a book, a podcast, audiobook. Maybe it's this very podcast or this YouTube channel right here. Find something that resonates with you that is legit. They're not trying to sell you something. They're not promising some kind of get rich quick scheme. They're just educating for free. A book might cost $15, but that's not going to break the bank. So books are a good, and most social media is free. So just find something that resonates with you, that you enjoy consuming, so that you start learning about how money works, and then start taking some action.
Definitely, I agree.
And if anybody does want to reach out to me, Instagram is a great place to do that. My Instagram account is D Sheeks, DSHEEKS, and they can DM me there.
Okay, that sounds great. And definitely we'll be sharing a link to your book as well, because that's definitely that's number one on my bucket list to read this summer.
Yeah, and I want to connect with you guys. I'll send you each a book.
That's awesome.
So I'll connect with you later and we'll get that done.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheeks.
Yeah.
Your insights have been incredible, and the experiences you shared with us. And definitely, if you want to reach out, maybe if something new comes up with the Chic Freaks community, or even if the Chic Freaks is it always accepting members, just for our audience to know?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
actually, we have and this might not apply to who's listening, but we have a Zoom meeting this Sunday, which is in 2 days. So I will also send you guys a link, and you guys should join our Zoom just to check it out. No strings attached.
Yeah.
Jump into the Zoom meeting this Sunday night and see what you guys think.
Definitely, that'd be nice. And when you send me an email, if you have anybody else who you might recommend for us to interview, we'd really appreciate that too.
I can do that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Sheeks. Have a good one.
Thank you so
You
much.
too. Thanks, guys.